Hey everyone, and welcome back to Ignite Echo channel. Today we've got a story that'll make you think twice about those too good to be true opportunities. It's a tale from the heart of America, a small town gripped by gold fever, all thanks to one unbelievable claim. Get ready for American Gold Rush, the $1 million lie that divided a town. Deep in the American heartland, where the cornfields stretch as far as the eye can see and life moves at a comfortable, predictable pace, lies the unassuming town of Harmony Creek. Nothing much ever really happened in Harmony Creek. The biggest excitement was usually the annual county fair, and gossip traveled slower than the old pickup trucks that rumbled down Main Street. Among Harmony Creek's residents was Jedediah Stone. Now, Jed was a character. A recluse, they called him, lived in a ramshackle farmhouse on the outskirts of town, surrounded by overgrown weeds and a lifetime's worth of, well, let's just say accumulations. Jed was known for his eccentricities, his tattered overalls, and his tendency to mutter to himself. Wealth? That was the last thing anyone associated with old Jed. Then came that sweltering Tuesday morning. The aroma of Mrs. Gable's famous blueberry pie hung heavy in the air at the Harmony Creek Diner, the town's unofficial meeting hall. Locals were nursing their coffee, catching up on the latest news, when the door creaked open and in walked Jedediah Stone. But this wasn't the same shuffling, withdrawn Jed they were used to. His eyes were wide, almost manic, and he clutched a dirt-stained burlap sack like it held the secrets of the universe. He stood there for a moment, a hush falling over the clatter of silverware. Then his voice, raspy from years of disuse, boomed through the diner. "I found it," he declared, his voice trembling with what seemed like genuine excitement. "I've struck gold, enough to make us all rich. Can you imagine the scene?" Coffee cups froze halfway to lips. Conversations died mid-sentence. All eyes were glued to old Jed and that mysterious sack. In a town where dreams often felt as distant as the stars, this announcement was like a lightning strike. The news spread through Harmony Creek faster than a summer wildfire. Jedediah Stone. Old, odd Jedediah, the man who hadn't bought a new pair of overalls since, well, nobody could remember when, was suddenly the most fascinating, the most important person in town. Whispers turned into excited chatter at the post office, the grocery store, even at Sunday service. Gold? People asked each other, their voices filled with a mixture of disbelief and burgeoning hope. Jed, suddenly thrust into the spotlight, became the center of attention. He'd show off a few glittering nuggets, small but undeniably golden. He claimed they were just a tiny fraction of his incredible discovery, hidden somewhere on a forgotten corner of his overgrown land. Tales began to circulate, tales of shimmering veins of gold, enough to transform their sleepy little town into a modern-day El Dorado. What would you have thought? Seeing a man like Jed, who no one ever suspected of having a dime, suddenly claiming to have struck it rich. Share your initial reaction in the comments below. The promise of gold ignited a spark in the hearts of Harmony Creek's residents. Sarah Jenkins, a hard-working single mother, was struggling to keep her family farm from being foreclosed. The thought of a share of this newfound wealth offered a lifeline, a chance to finally breathe. Mark Olson, a young mechanic with grease permanently under his fingernails, dreamt of opening his own repair shop, a place where he could finally be his own boss. Even Mayor Thompson, usually the picture of calm authority, couldn't quite mask the hopeful glint in his eyes as he pondered the possibilities for Harmony Creek's future. This wasn't just about money, it was about dreams. Dreams of security, of opportunity, of a life free from the constant worry of making ends meet. Jed, basking in the unaccustomed attention, seemed to relish his role as the harbinger of fortune. He became the de facto leader of this impromptu gold rush. He'd point vaguely towards his land, spin elaborate tales of geological formations and telltale signs of buried treasure. He was encouraging, offering folksy advice on the best way to dig and the importance of perseverance. And every now and then, Just when doubt might have started to creep in, another small, shiny rock would mysteriously appear, reigniting the fervor. Have you ever been swept up in a wave of collective enthusiasm, even if you had your own doubts? Tell us about it. Driven by this tantalizing promise, the people of Harmony Creek started to act. Some sold off precious belongings, an old coin collection, a spare tractor, to invest in what they called mining equipment. This mostly consisted of rusty shovels, dented buckets, and hopeful-looking gold pans they'd found in their attics. They neglected their daily routines. Their gardens went untended. Their businesses suffered. Days were now spent on Jed's overgrown property, digging with a feverish intensity, their backs aching, their hands blistered, but their hopes stubbornly alive. Sarah, initially cautious, found herself spending more and more time on Jed's land, the lure of saving her farm proving too strong to resist. Mark, his dreams of that repair shop dancing in his head, spent every spare moment digging alongside his neighbors, each swing of his pickaxe fueled by the vision of a brighter future. Weeks turned into months. The initial excitement fueled by Jed's pronouncements and those occasional glittering finds began to wane. The backbreaking labor under the scorching sun yielded little more than dirt, rocks, and aching muscles. The dreams that had once seemed so close began to feel distant again. Whispers of doubt started to circulate, at first quiet and hesitant, then spoken with increasing boldness in hushed conversations at the diner. "Has anyone actually found anything significant?" someone would ask. "Jed's stories keep changing," another would murmur. Yet, whenever someone dared to question Jed directly, he'd wave a dismissive hand, produce another carefully placed shiny rock, or weave an even more elaborate tale of the mother lode just waiting to be unearthed, hidden just beyond their reach. The turning point came during the annual Harmony Creek Town picnic, a day usually filled with laughter, barbecue, and friendly competition. This year, however, the atmosphere was different. Jedediah Stone, the man who had sparked this whole frenzy, was the reluctant guest of honor. As Mayor Thompson awkwardly presented him with a slightly wilted bouquet of wildflowers, Mark Olson, his frustration finally boiling over, stepped forward. "Jed," he said, his voice clear and firm, "we've been digging for months. People have sacrificed time, money, hope. Can you tell us, honestly, where exactly is this mother lode? Can you show us some real proof?" All eyes turned to Jed. The cheerful chatter of the picnic faded into an uncomfortable silence. Jed's usual confident demeanor crumbled. His eyes darted nervously, his hands trembled, and the details he'd once recounted with such conviction became hazy, contradictory. He stammered, avoided eye contact, and his carefully constructed narrative began to fall apart. Later that evening, a small group of determined townsfolk, including a resolute Sarah and a frustrated Mark, decided they couldn't wait any longer. They went to Jed's property, not to dig for gold, but to search for answers. They carefully examined the areas where Jed claimed to have found the initial nuggets, and then they decided to take a closer look at his dilapidated barn. Dusty and filled with years of forgotten junk, the barn held the key to the mystery. Tucked away in a cobweb-laden corner, behind a stack of old newspapers, they found it. A small velvet bag. Inside weren't glittering veins of gold, but a handful of shiny yellowish rocks, fool's gold. And alongside it, a small receipt from a traveling novelty salesman, dated years ago, for assorted shiny rocks and gold-colored nuggets. The truth, stark and undeniable, hit Harmony Creek like a punch to the gut. Jedediah Stone, the eccentric recluse, hadn't struck gold. He had orchestrated the whole thing, a fabrication built on a foundation of, well, they weren't entirely sure. Loneliness, a strange desire for attention, a bizarre social experiment. The reason didn't really matter anymore. The lie had been exposed. The immediate reaction in Harmony Creek was a tidal wave of anger and betrayal. Accusations flew, and the brief sense of unity forged by the promise of gold dissolved into bitter resentment. Some felt foolish, others felt cheated. Sarah mourned the precious weeks she could have spent nurturing her crops. Mark tallied up his lost wages and dashed dreams. But as the initial shock subsided, something else began to take root: reflection. The people of Harmony Creek started to look inwards. Had they been too eager to believe? Had their longing for a quick fix clouded their judgment? Had they placed their hopes in a fantasy instead of focusing on the realities of their own lives and the strength of their community? Sarah realized that the true gold lay not in a dusty field, but in the fertile soil of her farm and her own resilience. Mark understood that his skills and hard work were his most valuable assets. The townspeople slowly began to reconnect, not over a shared illusion, but over the shared experience of being deceived and the profound lessons they had learned. Jedediah, facing the quiet disappointment of his neighbors, eventually confessed his deep loneliness and his yearning to feel important, even if it was based on a lie. Forgiveness wasn't instantaneous, but a fragile understanding began to bloom. They saw not just a con artist, but a lonely old man whose desperate act had inadvertently revealed a crucial vulnerability within their own community: the seductive power of easy riches and the critical importance of clear thinking. Harmony Creek didn't become rich in gold, but it became richer in wisdom. They learned the invaluable lesson that true prosperity is built through hard work, critical thought, and the enduring strength of a community grounded in reality, not fleeting fantasies. And that, my friends, is the story of the $1 million lie that divided Harmony Creek. But within that story lies a powerful message that resonates just as strongly today, doesn't it? What valuable lessons did you take away from Harmony Creek's experience? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's start a discussion. If you found this story thought-provoking, please give this video a thumbs up and share it with your friends and family. You never know who might need to hear this message today. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more engaging American stories with valuable life lessons. Click the bell icon so you don't miss our next video. And finally, we're curious. Have you ever witnessed or experienced a situation where a seemingly incredible opportunity turned out to be a disappointment? Tell us your story in the comments. We learn best when we share.